It's kind of wild to think that a single event over 500 years ago didn't just change religion, it completely reshapes the world we live in today. We're about to dive into the surprising ways the Protestant Reformation transformed how we think about freedom, education, and even our jobs. So let's just start right there with that question. How on earth could something from the 1500s affect your career, your ability to read, or the rights you take for granted? It seems like a huge stretch, but trust me, the lines connecting that moment to your life are way more direct and powerful than you might think. Because you see, what happened back then wasn't some dusty academic debate locked away in a church. Oh no, it was the spark that lit a full-blown cultural revolution, a total game changer that sent shockwaves through, well, everything. To really get a handle on just how huge this transformation was, let's think of it as a simple before and after. We're going to look at the world's shift from blind obedience to freedom of conscience, from a religion spoken in a language nobody understood to one in their own tongue, and from work being a total burden to something people saw as a true calling. Okay, let's kick things off with the first game-changing idea, a totally new kind of freedom. And we're not talking about political freedom, not yet. This was something much deeper, much more personal. We're talking about the freedom of your own conscience. It all unfolded like a chain reaction. First, you have this radical idea that any person, anyone, could connect with God directly. No middleman required. Well, what happens next? That idea completely weakens the absolute authority of any single institution. And from there, that little seed grows into our modern ideas of personal liberty, democracy, and human rights. It all started there. And don't just take my word for it. Time magazine put it perfectly. They said this was a movement that rewired how all of humanity understood the very concept of freedom. It was about your personal conviction standing up to entrenched power. So once you put that much emphasis on individual faith and conscience, something else is bound to happen, right? That brings us to our next big ripple effect, a massive explosion in literacy and education. Suddenly, everyone needed to know how to read. I mean, the logic here is pretty straightforward. If everyone is supposed to read the most important book for themselves, well then that book has to be in a language people can actually understand. So translating the Bible out of Latin wasn't just a religious move, it kickstarted a massive literacy movement. Reading became a necessity for everyone, not just the elites. This was so huge, so fundamental that when the 500th anniversary of the Reformation came around, a lot of the focus wasn't just on the religious part, but on the incredible educational revolution it started. As one source said, this was nothing short of a revolution that put learning into the hands of ordinary people. Think about that. It basically democratized knowledge itself. All right, so we've got a revolution in freedom and a revolution in education. But the Reformation also completely changed something we all do every single day: work. It introduced this really powerful new way of thinking about our jobs. The big idea was this concept of a calling or a vocation. It meant that any job, whether you were a baker, a farmer, a parent, a blacksmith, it wasn't just about survival. It could be a sacred service, a meaningful way to serve your community. All of a sudden, every single job had dignity and purpose. And the result of that? A brand new, powerful work ethic. This created a sense of stewardship, the idea that you are managing your skills responsibly, and it put a huge emphasis on personal responsibility and doing your job well. The Washington Post just nailed it with this quote: "Work was redefined as sacred, not just survival." That is a massive cultural shift with unbelievable economic and social ripple effects that we still feel today. This whole push for accessibility also totally changed the culture. The fourth major shift was about taking faith out of these giant, intimidating cathedrals and bringing it right into people's homes and communities. You can almost picture the shift. Before, you had this very formal worship centralized in one big building, often in a language most people couldn't even speak. After, the focus moved to the local community, to the home, to your own personal experience. Faith became something you did, not just something you watched. So how'd they pull that off? Well, as National Geographic points out, they used the cutting-edge technology of their time, the printing press and music. The press pumped out Bibles and pamphlets people could read at home, and congregational singing, everyone singing hymns together, made worship this shared, emotional, powerful experience. It literally changed how faith sounded and felt. Now, these incredible changes got their start in Europe, but they definitely did not stay there. The legacy of the Reformation started spreading like wildfire, leaving a huge mark all across the globe. You see, as these ideas traveled the world, they brought this whole cultural package with them. People didn't just bring their theology, they built schools, which pushed literacy. They established hospitals, providing medical care, and they championed this idea of individual responsibility, which helped shape the civil institutions we see today. I absolutely love how The Guardian puts this. The echoes of Luther's hammer still resound. We can literally hear those echoes today in our schools, in our governments, in our places of worship. This isn't just ancient history. It's alive and well. So when you boil it all down, the story is pretty simple, but so powerful. When these core ideas were finally put into the hands of ordinary people, in their own language, it was like a light switch was flipped for entire civilizations. Nations awakened. And that leaves us with one final, kind of provocative thought. The Reformation wasn't just a one-and-done event, locked in a history book. Its core principle, that real transformation starts when one person engages with foundational truths for themselves, that idea is timeless. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the biggest changes in the world start small, with just a single heart and a single idea.